Welcome, everyone, to a Monday morning episode of the Call Sheet Podcast here at the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Kevin Smith. It is our Game Balls episode. We'll be awarding Game Balls for Week 9 in the NFL and really across the spectrum of football as the calendar turns into November. Got to take my kids trick-or-treating on Friday night. And that's always a cool event, because my kids are 7 and 12. My older son, Aiden, he doesn't have that many trick-or-treats left in him. And he went out with a pack of his buddies, and they want nothing to do with their parents. The worst thing in the world was when they ran into us while they were out trick-or-treating. But my 7-year-old, my daughter Shiloh, she still very much enjoys that experience with mom and dad. And I'm going to hold on to that as long as I can. But Halloween also means that we are now turning the page into November. And November is really where football begins to separate. At the high school level, you go into the playoff season. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. At the college level, you begin to see the first publishing of the college football playoff standings, the committee that puts that stuff together. They'll have their first published standings out this week. You start to really begin to focus in on who are going to be the elite teams in college football and in the NFL. The playoff picture starts to round into shape. Teams begin to eliminate themselves. This is an interesting year. No one's pulling away. As we record here on Monday morning, not only are there no undefeated teams remaining in the NFL, halfway through the season, there aren't any one-loss teams remaining. There were 2 one-loss teams heading into this weekend's games. Both of them lost. So it's a fascinating time of year from a football perspective. Let's get to our game balls. I'm going to award our first Monday morning game ball to our high school team at Ocean City, where I've been coaching for 30 years now, where I was the head coach for 14 seasons and just stepped down this past year. My good friend Sean Matthews, who was the defensive coordinator for me for a long time, has taken over as the head coach. And he led the Red Raiders to their 9th consecutive playoff berth. But unfortunately, we lost on Saturday in the playoffs to a very good football team, Mainland Regional High School. And our season is now done. And I wanted to just give a game ball out to those young men who have now wrapped their football careers. That is one thing that is always a somber thing for me when the season wraps. That when you lose that ultimate game, if you're not fortunate enough to be able to win your final game, which usually means you've won a championship, and those things are few and far between. So when you lose that final game and you do the handshake line and then you come over and you gather together one last time and the coach has some words trying to console upset young men and everybody breaks up, ultimately these seniors will come over to you and they'll hug you and they'll thank you and they have tears in their eyes. And it's hard, man. It's hard. It gives you a lump in your throat because you recognize their playing days are over. We have a couple kids who are going to go on and play in college. No big time kids. We don't have any scholarship kids. We've got some good, scrappy Division III type kids that are just really good football players. But they lack, for whatever reason, an elite trait. Maybe it's size or speed or an instinct, whatever it might be, to be able to play at the highest level of college football, but they're going to go on and probably be very good Division III football players and hopefully have great experiences. But there's only a few of them. 17 seniors. I think we have 3 of them moving on to play at the college level. That leaves the majority of them done. They're done. Their high school careers are done. And this is a thing. If you can think back to when you were 17 years old, if you were an athlete, how much did that mean to you? How much did being a part of a team mean to you? Or pursuing a passion, a thing that you loved so much? How much did that mean to you? I was moving. Maybe it was 5 years ago. I think we've been in the house we live in currently for 5 years. And when in the process of moving, I came upon a box up in our attic, opened it up, and there were all these sort of mementos in there, old photographs. But I found my high school yearbook. I had not looked at that high school yearbook in 30 years. And I just happened to, open it up and start to page through it. It's incredible. Almost every comment left by my friends has something to do with football. Always remember this, always remember that game, always remember, the weight room sessions, always remember 3-a-days. For those of you who are old school like me, you might remember 3-a-days, which are basically illegal now. This is the thing upon which so much of your youth is built. You harbor these great dreams. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be an NFL linebacker. I wanted to be Jack Lambert. Slowly it dawns upon the vast majority of football players or athletes in general that you will not be able to pursue this thing at the professional level. And then you just fall back on playing as long as you can for the love of the game. And ultimately, it comes to an end. For most kids, it comes to an end when your high school season finishes, your senior year. And so we had to hug it out on the field over there at Mainland Regional on Saturday with 17 high school seniors, 13 or 14 of whom will never play another down of football. And their tears were real and they were genuine. And to them, man, I salute them. Thank you so much for everything you put into the program, the countless hours in the weight room, on the practice field, doing this thing that you love to do and that you won't be able to do again. And that is a sad but poignant moment in the lives of young men. So game ball number 1. Game ball number 2, Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys. I mean, hey man, if we're talking about football, of course Alicia Keys, right? No, I'm kidding. But why Alicia Keys? Well, because Alicia Keys has a very popular song called Underdog. Underdog, right? Most people know this song, the chorus. This goes out to the underdog. Keep on keeping at what you love. You'll find that someday, soon enough, you will rise up. Rise up, yeah. I would sing it for you, but that is against the Geneva Convention. I mean, my singing voice, my singing voice could be used to, torture prisoners that you're trying to extract valuable information from. I think that they would give it up pretty quickly if just subjected to my singing for a fairly short period of time. However, Alicia Keys, Underdog, what a great theme for week 9 in the NFL, because we did see some underdogs rise up. Starting with the Carolina Panthers, 13.5-point dogs going into Lambeau to play the one-loss Packers who were fresh off of trouncing the Pittsburgh Steelers on their home field. And Carolina pulled a 16-13 upset. Baffled Jordan Love, frustrated him, forced him into some really bad decisions. I mean, the Carolina Panthers are 5-4. They're in the playoff hunt. What a job Dave Canales is doing down there. What a job he has done in reviving the career of Bryce Young, who I think people wrote off as a bust, but who is now, I wouldn't say he's among the upper echelon of NFL quarterbacks, but his arc is certainly headed in the right direction, and he is quarterbacking the Panthers right now to a surprising and competitive season. Big win for them at Lambeau. Minnesota Vikings go into Detroit, arguably with their season on the line. At 3-4, they go into Ford Field to play the 5-2 Lions. A loss here will put them 3 games back of Detroit in the loss column in a very competitive NFC North. And the Vikings, behind 5 sacks from their defense, a really stellar defensive effort, defeat Detroit 27-24. What was the key? Well, pressure, yes. Getting after Jared Goff, making him uncomfortable. But here's the you look at the numbers inside the numbers. Detroit went 5 for 17 on third down. That is a huge, huge accomplishment for Minnesota, because when you're playing a powerful offense like the Detroit Lions and you do the work on first and second down necessary to get them into those third down situations, being able to finish as a defense and get off the field is huge. You can't allow offenses like Detroit's to convert third downs and keep drives alive. They're just too good. They're too explosive. They're too dangerous. They're too well coached. They'll find ways to score points if you give them opportunities to continue drives. But if you can get them off the field, if you can make them watch from the sideline, then obviously your chances of winning increase significantly. Minnesota didn't do anything particularly exciting on offense. J.J. McCarthy had a very pedestrian day. The numbers aren't overwhelming, but they got the ball back continually. They got the ball back and gave it to their offense. And, Detroit self-destructed and they did they made a lot of mistakes. But still, Minnesota, that's a huge win for the Vikings. A great job by their defense. And they are now in the thick of an unbelievably competitive NFC North. It got flipped upside down yesterday. The Bears and the Vikings, who are at the bottom of the division, won. The Packers and Lions at the top of the division lost. That whole division just got tighter. And one more underdog, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Fresh off of that aforementioned ass-kicking by the Green Bay Packers on their home field, in which their defense was a shambles. And all week long, the conversation was about Pittsburgh's high-paid defense. They have the highest salary defense in the NFL, and they ranked dead last in the NFL heading into Week 9 in several measurables, including the most passing yards surrendered of any team in the league. They were a mess. They had some players-only meetings. They had a lot of people publicly questioning them. The NFL Countdown team on ESPN previewing Sunday's games absolutely eviscerated the Steelers for their effort against Green Bay. And when you're questioning effort, that gets to the heart of an athlete. And so, would Pittsburgh respond with the high-powered Indianapolis Colts coming to town? The best offense in the league against, in some measurables, the worst defense in the league. That felt like a nightmare scenario for the Steelers, and yet Pittsburgh comes out with a 27-20 win in which that defense produced 6 turnovers and 5 sacks. They made Daniel Jones look like New York Giants Daniel Jones, and that's not something Indianapolis wants to see. And granted, Pittsburgh won't be able to produce those types of splash plays every week, but for 1 week at least, in a game they needed badly on a 2-game losing streak to stay ahead in the AFC North, to keep the Baltimore Ravens at bay, Pittsburgh gets it done. So, Alicia Keys for your song Underdog, Game Ball. And to all those dogs who pulled those upsets. Game ball number 3. Cam Little, kicker, Jacksonville Jaguars. If anybody saw the replay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Cam Little broke the NFL record by kicking the longest field goal in league history on Sunday from 68 yards. Would have been good from 70 plus. In a 30-29 win over the Las Vegas Raiders. They needed those points. They needed that 68-yard field goal in a 1-point overtime victory. Here's the amazing thing. The Jaguars didn't even cross midfield on that drive. The ball was spotted at their own 42. The line of scrimmage was their own 49-yard line. We have now reached the point, ladies and gentlemen, where you don't need to cross midfield to be in field goal range. The logo, much like in the NBA, where these guys have gotten so good at three-point shooting that you can occasionally see a dude sink a three-pointer from the logo. The logo at midfield is now field goal range. You get to the logo, we're now having a conversation about, well, they may be in field goal range. I talked about this in the preseason when Cam Little hit a 70-yard field goal in the preseason. I said, we're reaching the point where it used to be that 50 to 59-yard field goals were long field goals and where you had to think about, hey, do I want to take this shot? We're now into the era where 60-yard field goals, 60 to 69 yards, conjures that conversation. So congratulations, Cam Little. I suspect your place in the record books will not be a long one. I mean, remember Tom Dempsey, the half-footed kicker for the Saints, who set the record for the longest field goal back in 1970? He kicked a 63-yarder. That record stood for over 30 years. Cam Little's is going to stand for a hot minute. I think somebody will come along, maybe even this year, and kick one further. Kickers, it's unbelievable how good they've gotten. Game ball number 4, the Cincinnati Bengals. For the experiment that they are conducting in Cincinnati. What is that experiment, you may ask? Well, they're experimenting with the idea of trying to win football games without playing any defense. The Bengals refuse to play defense. And it's kind of been set up that way. On the heels of their 47-42 loss to the Chicago Bears, where, as time ran down, Bengals leading 42-41, Bears out of timeouts, snapping the ball from around their own 40, trying to get into field goal range. They throw a ball down the middle of the field to tight end Colston Loveland, who catches it around Cincinnati's 38-yard line. If the Bengals get him down, Cincinnati's going to have to run up to the line of scrimmage and spike the ball. They'll probably be able to do that. But that's going to cost them most of the time on the clock, and they're then going to have to come out and try a 55 to 56-yard game-winning field goal. Instead, the Bengals, with 4 defenders surrounding Colston Loveland, perform a Keystone Cops routine where they run into each other, Loveland spins out of a tackle, and races for a game-winning touchdown. Cincinnati is on pace to yield the most total points of any team ever in a single season. That record was established just a year ago. Last year, Carolina gave up 534 points to set the record for most points allowed in a single season. And through 9 games, Cincinnati has already given up 300. That puts them on a pace to yield 566 points. They're averaging giving up 33.3 points per game. When you have to score 34 points a game to win, you're not going to win a lot of games. Cincinnati is an experimental place. They have been an innovator in NFL history. Zone blocking under the great Jim Mouse McNally emanated out of Cincinnati in the 1970s, early 80s. The West Coast offense had its roots in Cincinnati under Bill Walsh, who was the offensive coordinator there, and then took it to San Francisco where it became famous. The no-huddle up-tempo offense had its roots in Cincinnati under Sam Weish with quarterback Boomer Esiason. It's an innovative place, and they are now experimenting with just refusing to play defense. Fascinating. All right, we'll wrap it with this. Game ball number 5. Buffalo Bills, for the public service that they performed on Sunday night by beating the Kansas City Chiefs 28-21, dropping the Chiefs to 5-4. Why is that a public service? Because nobody wants the Chiefs back in the playoffs. They'll probably make the playoffs, but if the playoffs started today, they would be on the outside looking in. Kansas City currently number 8 in the AFC. Top 7 teams make the playoffs. That win stemmed some of the momentum Kansas City had been building after losing their first 2 games. They'd won 5 out of 6. Again, now 5-4, and they still have some hard games to play. I still believe they're going to be in the playoffs where there will be a very dangerous football team. No one will want to play them. But Buffalo has beaten Kansas City now 5 straight regular season games, and they've made Kansas City's path to the playoffs a little bit harder, and that is a public service. And so game ball to the Bills for doing so. By the way, Buffalo, 5 straight regular season wins over the Kansas City Chiefs, 4 consecutive playoff losses to the Kansas City Chiefs. Doesn't take a genius to figure out, which one would you rather have? Which streak would you rather have? So Buffalo is obviously, while they get the win on Sunday night, still has to slay that postseason dragon. That is Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and company. All right. Hope everybody had a great weekend as we head into the new week here. Whiteboard Wednesday show with Coach Lasasso. Hot Route with Pez on Fridays. And lots of video going up on my X account at KTSmithFFSN. We'll be doing video breakdowns of the Steelers Colts. How did the Steelers secondary rally to turn in a solid performance after several miserable ones in a row? We'll look at that, and we're going to get into some of the X and O's of some of the other games as well. So check my X account all throughout today, tomorrow, etc. Until Wednesday then, hope everybody has a great day, and we will catch you soon. Take care, everyone.